Good afternoon. Happy Wednesday. Eve of the PGA Championship. Uh, you know, for a golf bettor, the four majors are like the Super Bowl. So super excited, for this tournament. Last year, we crushed it. Finished plus 10.4 units for close to 100% ROI, which is insane, including spiking the winner, Justin Thomas at 18 to 1, which, was truly one of the most unforgettable victories of all time. With Mito Pereira puking all over himself at the end. And then, obviously JT and Willie Z going into extra holes and JT ultimately prevailing. So, that was one of the highlights of the season last year. So, looking to hopefully repeat again. Absolutely love this tournament and this card. So, let's get right into it. So, we'll start off just going through the model, talking a little bit about the course, and then get into the outright picks and the derivatives as well as the best bet. Um, so as far as the course, it's being played at Oak Hill Country Club in Rochester, New York. This is a legendary Donald Ross design. For those of you who aren't familiar, Donald Ross is one of the most epic course designers there is. He designed East Lake, home of the Tour Championship, Sedgefield, where the Wyndham Championship's played, and also Detroit Golf Club, which is where the Rocket Mortgage Classic was played. So, a lot of these courses are similar and, can be used sort of as a good reference point, East Lake in particular. So, bear that in mind, as we start to go through some of these outrights and analysis. And yeah, just real quick, there's obviously a multitude of ways to go about price shopping. But in my opinion, the most efficient way is to use an odds comparison site. Our friends over at OddsJam. I love to see it. They have golf now up for all the main markets. So yeah, it's great. Don't have quite all the sports books. Obviously, they don't have some offshores. Bet Online is actually an excellent sports book to have in your back pocket for outrights. So I'll be referencing the sports books where the wagers were placed as well. But if you want to go to OddsJam, they have all the different markets here. So it's really good stuff. So how I do golf betting. There's a multitude of ways, but primarily, it's by doing modeling. So okay, we'll get into the the different metrics that I use for the model this week. So 20% stroke gained approach, which is standard. Stroke gained approach is going to be pretty much the most important metric of any tournament always. 5% driving distance, and then this is sort of where it gets into the meat and potatoes. The proximity, 175 to 200 plus. So who's best with the long irons, because there's going to be a lot of long iron approach shots, and that's really where you know the scores are going to be made or lost this tournament, as these are the fourth smallest greens on tour. So greens in regulation also very important. 10% being allocated there. Opportunities gained 10%. So that means essentially how often do you birdie or eagle? Bogeys avoided, which given the fact that this tournament's going to most likely, the winner's going to probably be in the minus 10 at most range. Bogey avoidance is going to be key. Then as mentioned, it's a low par. There's only two par fives, so majority of the holes is going to be par fours, so 15% there, and then 15% stroke gained tee to green, and then I actually didn't even have putting in, but I put it in just so as we talk about some of these golfers, that can be referenced. But this in particular model was run with 5%, although to be honest, putting's extremely variant, and it really doesn't make much of a difference, and it's not really predictive. But anyways, so our outrights for this week, going to sort this by my rank. So essentially, what this model does is just goes back across a specified number of rounds. So I ran it to be 36, the last 36 rounds. And then, it calculates, what guys have, you know, done the best according to these metrics during that span. So, no doubt, no surprise, John Rahm, number one. If you look across, the dude has been an absolute mutant. He has zero flaws, literally. Fading him is never fun. That being said, his price point at 7 to 1, 8 to 1 just isn't there. And as good as he is, it's impossible to win every week, right? So he did win the Masters, but certainly he has the potential to be the last golfer since Brooks Koepka in 2018 to win multiple majors in a season. But I made the decision that I'm going to be fading Rahm this week. Not going there, but Scheffler, obviously the second. Him and Rahm are 1A and 1B, and Scheffler, pretty much everything's there for him, besides the putting. And, that's my big concern with him. I mean, Scheffler could easily have 4 wins already, on the season, the same as Rahm, if he putted a little bit better. But, he's been inconsistent, especially with those short putts. And, it cost him at the Masters, even though he finished T10 there. He really never had a chance to truly contend because he missed too many short putts. And this week, where scoring is going to be low, that's going to be the difference between a guy who's contending come Sunday versus, like a T10, T20, or even below. So I certainly think Scotty's going to be there come Sunday, without a doubt. The guy's just too elite from tee to green not to be. But at that number, I just don't. I don't love his odds here. So I'm going down next. Tony Finau. He's my first bet on the outright. As you can see here, outside of driving distance, where he's not quite where I'd love him to be, everything else he's within the top 15. With most of those stats being within the top 10. Especially, one of the most important stats is going to be, strokes gained tee to green, where he's number 2, and stroke gained approach, where he's actually the best in the field. Tony, he's been nipping at the bit, for his first major championship. And I do think this week we see our first major champion. All the guys in my outright portfolio, which we'll quick touch on here. So I made it easy. People always ask, how should I stake for outrights? Should I just bet 1 unit on each guy? And, ultimately, you're the sports bettor. That's up to you. But I'll explain how I do it. So I do it all to win 8 units. So, this calculator, it's very simple. It's linked below. So what you can do is click File, make a copy, and then you can create a copy in Google Drives, and you can go in and edit it yourself. But all that it does is, you type in the player, you put in the odds, and you put in your unit size. And then it will do the calculations for you, telling you what to risk to win, whatever your unit size essentially is, right? So, these are my outrights for this week. Xander, Sungjae, Cam Young, Cantlay, Finau, and Wyndham Clark. So it's a total of 1.78 units risk, to win, 8 units. So it's essentially like close to a 5 to 1, sort of an odds there, aggregate odds. So, that's typically what I try to go for. This is what's been very successful for me, in the past. So, that's how I go about doing it. So we'll quick run through these. I'm not trying to make this video be super long. But Sander, like I said, he as well pretty much fits everything. His driving distance. This is actually a little bit deceiving. This is over the past 36 rounds, but over the past year, he actually is top 25 in both driving distance and driving accuracy. And he's coming in great form. I mean, the biggest problem with Sander is he's never won a major championship. He's always the bridesmaid, never the bride, as they say. But yeah, he's coming in great form. T19 at the Players, T10 at the Masters, fourth at Harbour Town, and then second at Quail Hollow in his last start, where he was tied with Wyndham Clark, down the stretch, and credit to Wyndham, he pulled through to win his first major, or not major, his first PGA victory. And that is a bit concerning. I do worry a little bit about the dog inside Xander. As the kids say, he doesn't quite have that killer instinct, but this course couldn't be more tailor made for his skill set, for his current form. I really think that if he's going to break through and win a major, which definitely seems just like a matter of when, not if, at this point. He has an excellent chance this week. So, Sander is my, if I had to just pick one, which I definitely don't recommend doing, but if I had to just pick one, it would be Xander. Also took him to finish in the top 10, plus 190. That's on DraftKings. And I took him to finish top 20 on DraftKings as well, minus 115, which, is a little bit off market. He's like minus 150 elsewhere. So, Sander top 20 is my best bet of the week. Also took Tony to finish in the top 10, plus 225. That's on Bet Rivers. The next guy who we'll quick get into is Patrick Cantlay. He ranks number 6 in the model. And again, he's another guy who has been very close, but, has never quite gotten over the hump as far as majors are concerned. And to be honest, he hasn't even really been all that close. Like he's placed outside the top 20 in more majors than you would like, but the guy's coming in such great form. And the thing that I like about Cantlay the most this week, besides his form, is the fact that he excels on Donald Ross designs. He won at the Tour Championship at East Lake back in 2021, 2 years ago. And bent grass is his best surface. He also got a new caddy this week who he's really vibing well with, and he's a veteran caddy. So there's a lot of upsides for Cantlay. This is a guy who I rarely bet, only because he's like a top 10 machine. But him actually being able to compete against these elite fields, he hasn't shown the ability to do so. But Cantlay to me, really like him this week. Especially like just course wise, fit wise. He models out very well. So I'm taking him top 10 as well, plus 200 on Bet Rivers. And then as far as the top 20s, I'm taking Gary Woodland. He's plus 410 on FanDuel. Sungjae, plus 130 on DraftKings. And then, as aforementioned, Sander, top 20 as my best bet of the week. Sungjae, also taking him as an outright. And, Sungjae, my only concern with him, it's actually twofold. He's another guy who's, been very close. Sungjae actually, he's on a run of 7 straight top 20 finishes in his last 7 tournaments. That includes a T6 at the Players, T16 at the Masters, T7 at Harbour Town, T8 at Quail Hollow, and then he actually flew back to Korea for a tournament, and he won there sort of in dramatic fashion on the last hole, which, was nothing special considering that field was pathetic. But, I don't love the fact that he flew back to Korea and now he's flying back. I understand the guy is an Ironman, but, it's just not great travel-wise. So, that's the only reason why I'm not even higher on Sungjae this week. But, this is a guy who, his game fits the course. His distance isn't great. But outside of that, from tee to green, he's excellent. Around the green, he's excellent. Short game, very good. I've been betting Sungjae for the better part of like 2 seasons, really to limited success as far as outright wise. But, for a guy, in that mid range, like 30 or above, I think there's a good chance that that's where the winner comes from. And Sungjae would fit obviously that model of a first time major winner. And the next guy who I took the outright on, who we'll touch on, is Cam Young. And, this is a guy who I think has an excellent chance to win this week as well. It goes without saying, he's one of the longest drivers on tour. He's third in carry distance, and he's been the epitome of the big game hunter, showing up big in majors. Finished second at the British Open, third at the PGA Championship last year, Southern Hills, and then this year finished seventh at the Masters. Granted his form hasn't been great over the past 2 3 tournaments, but this is a guy like Kepka who always shows up when the lights are the brightest at the majors, and this is right in his backyard. He's a New York kid, and he doesn't quite model out. Quite as well, as you would like, only because of his putting. And, that's been what's holding him back here. If it wasn't for the putting, he'd really be up there in a lot of the categories because, his putting is correlated to the bogey avoidance not being great, the stroke gains par four not being great. And, um, all that's correlated. But, this is a course where it's not going to be a green that's going to be very difficult to put on. So he's going to be able to blast the ball off the tee, and his irons have been shaky as of late as well. But if he can put the ball within a decent proximity to the hole, his putting woes are going to be greatly mitigated this week, on the bent grass, which is a lot of guys' best surfaces, his included. So I think Cam Young, another great value pick, and he's been right on the precipice of breaking through for his first major win, and he's a guy who I think this week, in his backyard, in a course that really plays up to his strengths, as long as he can putt, to the field average, he has a great chance to be right in contention come Sunday. And then as far as a long shot, Wyndham Clark. I was annoyed because, I was all over this guy for the past few tournaments, and then, kind of gave up on him, at Quail Hollow because, in an elevated event, it just seemed unlikely that a golfer of his caliber would be able to get his first career win in such a loaded field. But to his credit, he did so, and he did so, relatively authoritatively, right? I mean, he ended up winning by 4 strokes, with just an absolute nails Sunday. And, as you can see, he models out extremely highly. Like, he's been on a tear lately. So, this is going off the last 36 rounds where, he's just been elite. And, he pretty much is everything that we're looking for. I mean, he's number one in opportunities gained, in the field, number three in bogey avoidance. A lot of that ties into his, very solid putting. He's one of the longer drivers on tour. So, Clark, he's coming in with a lot of confidence, and I saw that he hired a sports psychologist. Rory tried doing that for the Masters, didn't quite work out. Missed the cut at Augusta. It's not easy to do that. But to Clark's credit, it seems like his mentals are dialed in along with his game, and it would have been very easy with a player like Xander, running him down on Sunday to choke, as most guys, of his level do, which is why it's so hard to win on the PGA Tour. But that showed me a lot about him, that he, was able to just, come back, and then not only come back, but dominate and win easily. So, not that I think he has a great chance, to necessarily win this week, but I think 80 to 1, it's definitely worth like a tenth of a unit shot, because I do think he has a good chance to be there. And so the last bets, Neiman, top 30, plus 210 on FanDuel. So really quick, as far as the live guys are concerned, I think that Cam Smith, DJ Brooks, those guys are the favorites, and probably deservingly so. But as far as just course fit here, I really like Neiman, and Neiman models out really well. So I think in this particular model he's 21. if you run this up to 24 rounds, I think he's actually with or inside the top 15. So Neiman, yeah, he's just a good course fit. I mean, FanDuel has, yep. So if you run it back to the last 24 rounds, Neiman's number 12, so he's even better. So obviously, the live guys, they're not playing, a full 4 rounds. We saw Kepka fade at the Masters. So, I really have no interest in backing any of these guys in the outright markets just because, until one of these guys can win and play, a solid 4 rounds and show it to me, I'm going to be very skeptical. But, Neiman definitely has the game and the course fit to finish inside the top 30. I mean, it's pretty rare to get a top 30 uh, above 2 to 1, which we're getting here. So, he's my favorite live play. And FanDuel actually has an interesting market, top live player, and he's 11 to 1. So I'm gonna put some pizza money on that as well. And then we're taking Ricky, top 30 plus 150. That's on DraftKings, and then Wyndham Clark, taking him top 30 as well, plus 170 on FanDuel. So I'm going to put up a graphic here of all the bets. So we have a total of 10.78 units risked, which is pretty standard. Typically we'll have, between 1.5 to 2 units risk in the outright portfolio. And then, you know, within the derivative markets, typically between, 5 to 10 units. So we have 9 units allocated this week in the top 10s, 20s, and 30s. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this tournament. I think that we're going to see a first-time major winner, and if we do, it's a very good chance that it's going to be Xander, Cantlay, Cam Young, maybe Sungjae. I am a Sungjae fan. I'd love to see it. Like I said, the dude has done nothing but let me down, so don't have my fingers crossed. And then as a just pizza fun bet, I'm also taking Gary Woodland at 80 to 1 to be the first round leader. He has an early tee time. He yeah, his game fits his course really well, and I think he can come out strong here and get out to a strong start. As we see, he's ranked 11th in the model. And as far as proximity, no one's been better than him. Greens and regulation. So if he can sink a few putts, which has been his Achilles heel, at least lately, I think if he gets out to -3, -4, that would be enough to most likely get him the first round lead. So don't go crazy on that, obviously, but it's always fun. Really, nothing better than a first round leader sweat on a Thursday at a major. So those are my picks, guys. Once again, I made this video way too long. I got to be better at being more concise, so my apologies. But if you just want to zoom into the end to see the picks, by all means, you can do that. Let's have a great PGA Championship and enjoy.